I think while we are waiting, probably I can um, just touch base with everyone who's here today. And of course, we know Saubia, and there are few invited principals here. So I can see somebody from Life Valley, and um, yeah, others probably the associates will know
Good
where they are
morning.
from.
Hi, Dr. Ganesh. This is Marina Sebastian.
Hi, Marina. Yeah, I can see her.
Valley School. This is in the south of India, a place called Kottayam. And looking forward to hearing about the program in detail. Thanks for the invite.
All right.
Thank you for connecting.
So I think Rich is going to talk about it from the beginning to the end. But the effort that we are, we are put in is to provide an opportunity to school leaders from India to visit New Zealand and undergo 3 different programs with 3 different university partners, University of Auckland, AUT University, and Victoria Universities, and also to have an interaction with Education New Zealand and through them with the New Zealand government. So that's in a nutshell. And iQuery comes in as a facilitating partner in all these partnerships. So we are here to facilitate, the future direction of this group. Hopefully, we should have maybe about a dozen principals visiting next year, and the dates are fixed. That's the last week of March. It's a. I think it's an innovative way of connecting multiple dots in terms of education or transnational or multinational education. So I think that's where we stand, and hopefully we should be able to, with your help, we should be able to make sure that we have a team going to first of this kind program, I should say, at least as far as I know of. I did some research, but I could not find a shape or form of this program. There have been visits in the past, and there will be visits in the future, but this is something very different. So I think, Richard, over to you. Maybe to walk everyone through. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ganesh, and thank you everybody for participating or joining in today. So my name's Richard Kensington. I have a title Principal Academic Relations. I work for a company called Up Education in New Zealand, and I've worked for this group since the year 2000. For the first 18 years, we were known as Academic Colleges Group, but through a merger and a split, both in the same time, we had to change our name to Up Education. So we specialise in tertiary education in New Zealand and across Australia, and we're closely linked with 3 universities in New Zealand and also 3 universities in Australia, but we're also heavily involved in sub-degree programs in colleges that we actually own and operate ourselves. So across New Zealand and Australia, if we include our international students, who are a bit smaller in number at the moment, we have about 18,000 students enrolled in the study. The domestic students in New Zealand and Australia are all funded by the respective governments, Australian government and the New Zealand government. So they are not private in that sense. It's only the international students who have to pay their own fees. So I've been involved, first 20 years of my life, I was involved in state education. I was the deputy principal of a large high school in Auckland. And then one day somebody offered me the opportunity to jump into private education, and I've enjoyed it ever since. I should be retired, but I'm not. I'm age 71 and I intend staying a few more years yet. So Ganesh, you have me around for a while. So what I'd like to do now is actually share my screen, if I can manage this without being too much of a fuss. And hopefully you should be seeing a screen with 3 students on the front and my name and email address at the bottom, and nothing else. So what I thought I would do is A, be the geography teacher and remind people where New Zealand is and where there's little two islands, or essentially three islands in the Southwest Pacific, probably about 3 hours flying time from Australia and about 11 hours flying time direct from, say, Chennai or Delhi. Um, and in the future, in the near future, Air New Zealand has on their radar to fly direct from India to New Zealand, which will actually be quite good. At the moment, you can't fly direct. You can do one stop, Singapore, Thailand, or Australia through to New Zealand. Just to be the typical geography teacher, just to remind you a little bit about what New Zealand is like, um, in the sense that we have a temperate climate. The north, we hardly ever get snow except in the mountains, and the average temperature range in Auckland is not too hot and not too cold. And the South Island, yes, it gets colder, and yes, in winter it can even get colder than 5, but generally speaking, it's also a temperate climate. And I think what New Zealand is known for, and I'm sure many of you have seen some of the films like Lord and the Rings and Avatar and such, um, is the scenery in the South Island where you can be the only person in a place. In fact, it's very much similar to the scenery as you would get up in the Himalayas, and have been up there. We have some natural treasures in New Zealand. Being islands, we've been isolated from the rest of the world for millions of years, and our New Zealand natural vegetation has benefited from not having any carnivorous animals, nor have it has any snakes or anything poisonous or anything else like that. So the top bird on the left, the kiwi, and the bird that looks like a parrot on the left is actually a takahe. Both of those birds can't fly. They didn't need to fly. There was no need to fly. They could completely survive in New Zealand without having to rely on flying. We, like India, were taken over by the British at one stage. So the Captain James Cook was the first British explorer to arrive in 1769. And in 1840, there was a treaty signed with with the Maori peoples, which is called the Treaty of Waitangi. And that is actually New Zealand's founding document. In fact, to this day, much of New Zealand law um, involves the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi. What's happening? Right. So in terms of our government, we're a democratic country, we're independent, we're actually a member of the Commonwealth, and like some members of the Commonwealth, we still have the British royalty as our king. So King Charles III is our king, essentially a figurehead in London, but he does appoint the Governor General that is like the leading person in New Zealand. So we don't have a president, we have a parliament which is elected every 3 years, and currently we have a Labour party which is in power, and I'm sure you've heard of Jacinda Ardern, who is the leader of that party at the moment. But New Zealand is essentially a multicultural country, more multicultural in the North Island than it is in the South Island. But in terms of study and education, being a small country of only 5 million people, and not very well populated, it's a place that people can come and study, and it's safe. And if you think about the area of the UK and Japan, they are exactly the same as the area of New Zealand. And we have 5 million people, and Japan has 127 million people. And there's lots of good reasons to study in New Zealand, and I think lots of good reasons why people are successful in New Zealand. They use New Zealand as a stepping stone to get into other countries. But we have 8 universities in New Zealand. I'll come to that in a minute. But all our qualifications are internationally respected and recognised. And a New Zealand education has been found by internationals and domestic students to open opportunities in other countries. And for students who have been to university, it's an excellent opportunity if they want to remain in New Zealand to get it and do post-study work. So across New Zealand, there are 8 universities, and all the universities in New Zealand are owned by the New Zealand government. There are no private universities, and no other institution other than those 8 can use the word university in their title. That's enshrined in New Zealand law. So ACG, as we were known, but now Up Education, University of Auckland and Up Education have worked together since 1998. So we've been working together for nearly 25 years, and we deliver a university preparation program for the University of Auckland. Likewise, we do for the other university in Auckland, AUT, and the Wellington, and the university in the capital city, Wellington. So if we're looking at our three universities, um, all our universities are in the top 500 of the world. And we are the only country in the world, admittedly we've only got 8 universities, but we're the only country in the world with all its universities in the top 500. And the University of Auckland is our premier university. It's ranked 87 in the world, and it floats around between 80 and 90 every year when the QS ranking scale comes out. Times education rankings are slightly different, but we like to promote the QS ranking scale. But the University of Auckland is a comprehensive university. In fact, most faculties and degree pathways you can imagine are available for study at the university. There's a couple of exceptions. You won't find anything to do with oil exploration and anything to do with atomic energy in New Zealand. We are nuclear free and have been nuclear free since the early 1970s. And on that basis, any country that wants to visit New Zealand, like any army, any defence force vehicle or anything like that, they have to declare if they are nuclear armed or nuclear powered, and if they are, we do not permit them to come to New Zealand. The youngest university in New Zealand is AUT University, and that is also in Auckland. But it may be the youngest, but it's already in the top 500 of the world. But in terms of new universities, it's ranked number 14 in the world. So it's really high ranked for a young university. It's very much a practical, hands-on university. University of Auckland, I should have said before, likes people to remain and do masters and doctorates and other postgraduate study. AUT University is more focused on getting students ready for work and getting out to work, and it has a high success rate in getting students in employment upon graduation. And Victoria University in Wellington is our capital city. If you go back to before World War II, we had one university in New Zealand, University of Auckland, Victoria University, Canterbury and Christchurch, and Otago and Dunedin were all known as the University of New Zealand. But the government split them into four. So Victoria University and University of Auckland are both of a similar age. But you can see there it is also highly ranked. And just very quickly what we do, we offer pathway programs for students to university from countries that don't offer a 13-year education system. So in New Zealand, all our students do 13 years at school, which means if you went to the United States where they offer a 4-year degree program, our bachelor's degrees are 3 years in duration. That first year of university in the United States would probably be equivalent to our year 13 in New Zealand. And in New Zealand, our national examination system is called NCEA, and that is offered in the last 3 years of school. It would take me hours to explain the nature of the system, but it's basically it's standards based. I think we'll just leave it at that at the moment. But there are many schools, including private schools, that offer A-levels and international baccalaureate, and they are growing in number because they're more internationally accepted and recognised. So we have educated in the foundation space over 14,000 students. All our teachers have to be fully qualified and registered with the New Zealand government. And that is the only thing they do is teach international students. And I'm not going to do a sell of Up Education. And very quickly, the programs that we actually deliver, one is for the University of Auckland. And you can see there on the right, they have to study English for academic purposes, and they need to study 4 of those academic subjects, and they study those for the whole course. And you can see there that from our minimum entry requirements, we do not, if you're looking at students from graduated from India, in terms of CBSE, we admit students who have only completed class 10. And when I mean only completed class 10, they still are successful in the program and they get to university and they are very successful at university. Um, which is a strange thing for an Indian parent because Indian parents would prefer their children to remain at school right through to the end of class 12. But over the years, we've had many Indian students who have come to us and studied and have all been successful and ended up in with really successful jobs. One particular person I can remember brought his first son to New Zealand about 10 years ago, and then about 4 years later, he brought son number two to New Zealand. Both of these students had finished class 10 at an international school in Mumbai. The eldest son now is a leading architect in New Zealand with his own business, with his younger brother working for him. AUT University also offers a foundation program. The entry requirements are very similar, but this program is different. There are more compulsory subjects, and students have to do 4 optional subjects, but they only study these subjects for one term, like 10 weeks before they have their final exam. And I explain this to parents as meaning University of Auckland being a highbrow university looking at postgraduate study, uh, wants students to know more about the theory behind something and how something is used, whereas AUT University is more interested in telling the students this is how you do something. Now see if you can get the same outcome. And if you're looking at, like a maths exercise, University of Auckland would expect you to know how the formula was originally created, why it was created, who created it, and what are the applications of that formula, whereas AUT would say, here's the formula that you'd use for this situation. You need to know how you can use it and to what advantages this formula has over another formula. And Victoria University has a very similar program, and I won't go through it in detail, but essentially, any of the 3 foundation programs we deliver, students are guaranteed places at the university, and we can brag like other people can brag also, but we can brag that the University of Auckland has done its own research to find that our foundation students are more successful than even New Zealand students who have finished year 13 at school. So the real point of this exercise or this promotion today is just to tell you about a couple of opportunities that we have put together with our 3 partner universities and which Ganesh is helping us to promote across India. And we're only looking at Indian high school principals or senior leaders within Indian schools to give them an understanding of the New Zealand education system and come away with a certificate for the work that they have done in these universities. Um, there is a nominal cost, but if you were to enrol in a one-day seminar at the a one-day course at the University of Auckland, um, they are charging in the order of $1,000 for the day, and thinking that we are offering something over 4 days or 5 days. Don't think we are for asking 5,000 US, nowhere near it. So the program involved is 5 days, involving visiting Auckland for 3 days and then going to Wellington for 2 days. And it's aimed to give you an insight into the universities and to learn some skills that hopefully will benefit you as a leader and you in your own school where you're working. And also it's an opportunity to look at some alternative non-university degree pathways. So while universities in New Zealand are the only people that can use university in their name, there are other providers that can deliver degree There are other providers that are approved by the New Zealand Qualifications Authority to deliver degrees. These degrees tend to be less expensive and they're very practical oriented. So it's an opportunity to learn a little bit about that. So the whole course is hosted by the 3 universities, Up International College, which is the college that delivers the 3 foundation programs, and Education New Zealand. And Education New Zealand is a separate body within the New Zealand government, specifically targeted with promoting New Zealand as an international education destination. So it is essentially a government department. It's a division of the government. It's not a commercial entity at all. So the program itself will involve one day at AUT University, uh, and that university, in fact the University of Auckland, are all within 10 minutes walk of our campus in the centre of Auckland. So the AUT University Day is going to focus on entrepreneurship and integrating how you'd integrate entrepreneurship and student initiatives and partner with industry. So it's looking at students, it's looking at industry and taking entrepreneurship and how you can integrate both together to develop an outcome which benefits students. The University of Auckland will focus on STEM education and particularly STEM education involving women, because there is every country in the world, there are more and more girls interested in STEM education. Within New Zealand, there's a huge effort from the New Zealand Ministry of Education to promote more and more girls to get involved in the sciences and the maths, and they are getting success. So the University of Auckland is going to be focusing on some of the new indicatives and delivery of STEM education in the school environment. Day 3 will be the Wednesday, and that will involve looking at up education, looking at the International College, very quickly looking at the 3 pathway programs, and also the opportunity nearby to look at UB College of Creative Innovation, which delivers degree pathways. It delivers 3 bachelor's degrees, 1 Bachelor of Honours degree, and 1 master's degree. And also nearby, NZMA delivers programs which articulate through to degrees at university. So it's an opportunity for students to start doing a diploma type program, and then very quickly they can articulate into a university degree. And the time involved may be a little bit longer than going direct to university, but in many cases these students would not have met the entry requirements to get to university. So it's an alternative pathway. Then on Wednesday afternoon we would fly to Wellington, and there in Wellington, Victoria University has a program organised which will take about a day and a half, maybe a little bit longer than a day and a half, focusing on new directions in school leadership in New Zealand and looking at the international scene at the same time. And then on the afternoon of the last day, and Education New Zealand will host an event in their office in Wellington, which is very close to the New Zealand Parliament buildings, where there will be an opportunity to learn a little bit more about the educational opportunities within New Zealand. They will be inviting Wellington High School principals to come and meet with the delegation. So it's an opportunity to interact with New Zealand high school principals and possibly set up a sister school type relationship. We are also going to get members of the New Zealand NZQA, New Zealand Qualifications Authority, who is the body who registers and approves educational programs in New Zealand, to be present. And I'm also hopeful that the New Zealand Minister of Education will be able to attend at the end of the event. And my intention is at this stage that he will actually present the certificates of participation to all the people who have been involved in this program. Oops, gone too far. So the program itself, people need to be in New Zealand by Sunday the 26th of March, and the program ends on the 31st of March. If people want to come earlier and do a tour or stay later and do a tour, that's more than possible. If there are enough people interested, we have a local contact who can organise a tour of the South Island. They are very experienced at organising tours, especially for Indian tourists who come to New Zealand quite regularly. So the program itself will involve in Auckland for the first 3 days, then going to Wellington. And the cost involved, which is really goes towards some of the food and not for accommodation, some of the food and entertainment expenses involved. And it's certainly not covering the costs involved at all. But basically speaking, we are helping the universities to enable them to run the courses. So it's essentially a small contribution. And going on the current exchange rates, going on the exchange rate today, 250 New Zealand dollars is about $125 American, so it's even lower than that. And we'll put a copy of the flyer in the comments box, or else you can email me to get a copy of that flyer. I won't go into too much detail about the other opportunity, which is a New Zealand school exchange, but if people are interested, we can put you in contact with some New Zealand schools. Just before COVID, there were a number of Indian schools that came to New Zealand and spent a couple of weeks with a New Zealand high school. The students lived with New Zealand families. They participated in family life in New Zealand. They participated in school life in New Zealand. And I understand from some of the schools that were involved in this project, the students were really excited when they went home. The schools involved were really keen to have return visits, and then COVID came along. So the schools that I'm aware of in Delhi, they had students who from class 8, 9 or 10 who actually participated in the group. But those tours involve full cost recovery. So there are costs involved with the school. So they is sort of an indication of the costs in New Zealand dollars. But then there's airfares, etc. on top of that. With respect to the Principal's Leadership Tour, we need to confirm with the universities by the end of this month who will be participating, because they need to organise some of their academics before the summer break, so to make sure they're up and ready for the start of next year. March is a very busy time in the New Zealand universities because it's the 1st of March every year when university recommences after the summer vacation. So we need to make sure that the university academics have time before Christmas and just after Christmas to get ready for their presentations. So with the registration form there, which needs to be filled in, this enable us to provide a letter of introduction which can be used to get the visa to come to New Zealand. We would need a coloured copy of your passport. I think I'll leave it at that. And Ganesh, would you like to add anything at this point? And I'll see if I can copy the
Yeah, I think, just a couple of points. I think it's fairly comprehensive, and as you probably realize, this is being recorded. So we are probably happy to share the link sometime, maybe tomorrow or so, once the recording is available. But a couple of important points. Number one, this is a unique and a fantastic opportunity, as you can probably feel already, as you have seen it. And time is a matter of essence here. So what we can do for you is, once you put your hand up, we can start your process and we will facilitate the whole process for you. And iQuery will be with you when you are in New Zealand. I mean, that's what we do with all our students as well. So, but to make it possible, we have to make decisions. So the first step, as I understand, is that Richard will be sharing a link, a payment link, to pay the 250 New Zealand dollars to register.
So just to interrupt, Ganesh, I need the form filled in, returned back. When the form comes back, I'll send you the link to how to pay.
Okay, excellent. Right. So the EOI form, and some of you have already provided that to me, but yeah, we'll follow up with you if you haven't received it, yet from you. I mean, if you haven't received it from you yet. So we'll get that organized for you. And you'll get the payment link. And once you make the payment, we will set the ball rolling for you. The expectation, as I mentioned it earlier, is to have a minimum of around, we are looking at about a dozen principals. So it could be others in your network. So much appreciated if you can make sure that you, especially if you know somebody else in the same field from perhaps a sister school or a collaborative, like any other organization from your network, basically, it'll be good to bring some of the people with you to New Zealand, so long as they are from an Indian school, and they are either school leaders or principals of their schools. So help us to reach out to those people. That's what the second point is. And then third and final point is, of course, you would have been invited either by me personally or by one of our associates, Dr. Ansi, Pushpa, Jyoti, or Ishwari. There are a couple of other senior associates with us. Please get back to them just to make sure that your case is taken care of. That's all I have to say here. But I think, please ask questions now that Richard is here, and I'm sure you'll be asking them on behalf of everyone who might be thinking of coming to New Zealand. So that's all from me.
Just before we ask any questions, I've put a copy of the form into the chat box, so you should be able to open it and download it.
Right.
So would anyone have any questions, concerns, thoughts? Some better way of doing this?
I think you'll have to probably unmute if you want trying to speak.
Yeah, everyone can unmute.
Hello. Hello, is it audible?
Absolutely.
Okay, myself, Jyoti, beside me, my education coordinator, Mr. Venkatesh.
Hi.
We are from Mahapudi School, Mysuru, Karnataka.
Okay, pleased to meet you.
I'm very happy that got opportunity to, associate with iCurie through Miss Pushpa. And we are here in South, and we have a student from 18 state of India, and we are running the school in India from last 50 years, and we have 16 branches in India, and now we are looking for some changes in education, as Indian government is already has a plan to put the NEP concept, that is more of practical activities based education in India. And likewise, what I felt, what the Australian or New Zealand education concept is more about the activity based, which is very practical, which is helpful for the students. So we thought it is really appreciable. And moreover, I myself, I done my MBA from DCT University, Switzerland. I was also a student studying in Switzerland, and I was in different country working, but I was not in hospital, the education line, but I was in hospitality line.
Good.
So today I felt like that what kind of education I got in Switzerland is always more practical activities based. So I thought it is very helpful for us if we change the education system, implement the Australian or New Zealand education system in India. So we just want to know now how long you've been in this this kind of education you started to impart in high school level. And I also wanted to ask what kind of percentage, good result you got in this last how many year you are trying to implement this kind of education?
I mean, what's my experience in education? Well, I left university in 1975, so you can work that out, how long I've been involved in education. And within New Zealand, there has been enormous changes during that time. So in the late 70s, New Zealand went towards a model where there was little practical education in high schools. But in the last 10 years, I think we've realized the error of our ways. Not everyone needs to go and get a diploma. Not everyone needs to get a university education. Many people are not academically based, but they're excellent practical type people. And now I've even got my own daughter who was near enough a failure at high school because she went to a totally academic high school. Since school, she's achieved because she's got involved in practical education. So very much there's opportunities within New Zealand schools to grow this. And I think what we are doing in our group, Up Education, we have a number of educational providers that provide practical-based training across hospitality, cookery, sport, design, digital, animation, software engineering, where we have students who have completed high school, maybe not with success, but after a course of study with us, with practical education, they have success, they get a diploma, they move into wonderful jobs. And many of the students that do our degrees would never be successful at getting a degree at university. But our degrees are very practical, hands-on, project-based, and the students get success, and they end up moving into jobs, into full employment. So I think in terms of in the New Zealand education scene at the moment, if you look at who provides education, we have the 8 universities. We then used to have about 40 institutes of technology, and the government is combining them all into one massive institute, which has a Maori name called Te Pukenga. And that institution provides practical and academic-based education at a lesser level than what the university would. There's also private training providers who provide courses of study, and our UB College and our NZMA and our New Zealand School of Tourism fall into that category. And what's always amazed us over the years is the New Zealand government brings New Zealand high school teachers and even teachers from our polytechs to come and view how we deliver education. Because in New Zealand, as you imagine, we are a multicultural country. If you go back to when I was at school, everybody tended to be European. Whereas today, you get large Maori group, Pacific Island group, there's Indian group, there's Arabic group, there's Latin American people, there's Japanese, there's Korean. So the way you teach in a classroom has had to change, and we need to adapt to the huge number of learning styles. You asked me a second question, which I've forgotten what it was. Something about success, I think you said. Is that right?
I told you
Can't hear you, sorry.
I ask you one question regarding as you have implemented this kind of activities and trying to collaborate with the Indian school, what kind of result you see, and what the benefit you see in the institution and also for the students?
So it seems to be a couple of parts to that question. Are we collaborating with Indian high schools at the moment? Or could we collaborate with Indian schools? The answer is we could. Do we actually collaborate on this sort of practical type basis at the moment? No, we don't. Our focus has been more on university pathways, but this is something we are looking at. And if you look at the Indian government plan for education becoming more practical based, the Chinese government are doing exactly the same. So they're both the same. So we have and are looking at a number of initiatives in China. We could and should look at a number of initiatives in India. I do know within New Zealand, when we are successful with practical based education. I know that. But I think really the opportunity is, if you were to come, we can provide you with some opportunity. If you could stay a few extra days or come a few days earlier, Education New Zealand or ourselves could arrange the opportunity to visit some of the New Zealand high schools, because we are not a high school. We operate at the sort of the last year of school level. Our private training establishments, although they deliver some programs that's equivalent to what you would get in a New Zealand school, our students are older, so they've generally gone through school and in many cases failed, but they're now getting success with us. But
also,
sorry, Ganesh, you can jump in.
yeah, sorry. I think also the last day of the program is very, critically important, because we hope to have an opportunity for you to connect with some of the highly successful school leaders from New Zealand. So you will have opportunity to do a lot of networking, And as and beyond that, iQuery again could also be helping you out with making those connections before and after the event.
So, there are, Auckland is the largest, we may be only 5 million people, but Auckland is our largest city. So there's plenty of opportunity to visit schools in Auckland, and many of them would welcome the opportunity for an Indian principal or a school, any principal, to come and visit the school and explore and see if how they can work together and what they can see.
Right.
I think we're getting a follow-on question.
Yes. Verena, would you like to ask something? Because
Yeah, I'm fine. Actually, I was listening to it all, so I thought it is always better to come there and explore and get to know things firsthand myself, which is why I was thinking about going ahead initially before taking the students for an exchange program, which was the first plan initially. So ANSI of iQuery has been very supportive and has been guiding us with all the aspects of it. And so after listening to this, I am more clarified on whatever is on the offer. And just like the students do, me, myself, I'm a very curious person. So I thought, first let me come there and explore and meet people and do the networking and see how it goes. So that is what basically I'm looking out for. And it's wonderful listening to all the details. I've noted them all. Yeah,
Okay.
that's it. I don't have too much of doubts as of now.
all right.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Queries.
Yes.
What is the exchange timings of the duration of the student exchange program in New Zealand, from India, New Zealand?
What is the duration of what?
Yeah.
The student exchange that you mentioned.
Oh, the student exchange would be looking at 2 weeks in New Zealand.
Okay. 2 weeks. Okay.
Right.
Okay, sir. Thank you
again-
so much.
So
It
when
is,
it comes to the New Zealand exchange, we would put the Indian school, we would connect them with the New Zealand's high school, and then the two schools together would work out a program between themselves. There are commercial operators in India that offer school trips to New Zealand, but you can imagine they charge a huge amount of money on top of that to facilitate these trips. And much of the exchange can be organized between the schools. Ganesh's team can help with the visa process, and group visas are infinitely easier to obtain than individual visas. So I think, and whether the school opportunity happens this year or next year or the following year, all schools are very interested and have the opportunity of exchanging, and ideally in time the New Zealand school would actually come to India also. Not only in time, but that would be the plan, would be the following year. At the moment, a number of schools do exchanges with Malaysia, some do with Japan, some do with Korea, because really they're just the north of us. Some in the past have gone to India, but as COVID killed everything in the world, we need to restart many things.
Right.
So I think I will leave the session open if you haven't happened to download the form. If you need it later, I'm sure Ansi or
Yeah,
some,
we've got it.
you've got it, so you
Yeah.
can circulate it.
Yeah,
Okay.
right, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very
Right.
much for connecting, everybody. Would love to see as many as possible in New Zealand in March next year. It's a lovely time in New Zealand. It's sort of late summer going into autumn. There's lots of nice colours in New Zealand. It won't be very hot and it won't be very cold. It'll be a temperate climate, and it's probably a good time of the year in terms of weather.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Richard.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Dinesh. Thank you
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much. Thank you.